Data is immensely appealing to me as a social scientist. Bike-friendly cities provide some of the best quality of life. Playing the refs by browbeating them has long been a key move in the right-wing playbook against traditional media. In a time of information avalanche, focusing on what is true and important can be a revolutionary act. In the Middle Ages, psychosis may have involved visions of the devil, snakes, or witches. In the 21st century, it can involve dressing in pseudo-combat gear, donning numerous high-powered rifles, and walking through a public place in a blaze of violence. Our social networks, our news, our mundane existence and our important moments are all mediated by algorithms, whose proprietary, profit-driven, ad-financed nature seeps into every small micro-interaction. Humans have only so many irreplaceable skills, and the idea that we'll just keep outrunning the machines, skill-wise, is a folly. In many complex systems, efficiency, redundancy, and resiliency pull in different directions. More efficient systems, which are cheaper, eliminate redundancies, which provide resilience but cost more. Working with children with autism is difficult, tiring work, especially since the social rewards, the smile, the eye contact, the hug, the thank you, that make most of us tick are few and far between. I've never tried such an endeavor. I'm in no position to judge anyone. I adored Copenhagen, the city of biking. What is the point of talking about healthcare access and outlining how it manifests itself in failure after failure, given that the Republican Party seems determined to block progress and even roll back what little improvement we have had with the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare? Lowering the eligibility age for Medicare to 60 and then to 55 and expanding the Veterans Health Administration, the largest integrated healthcare system in the country, to include firefighters, social workers, teachers and others who serve their communities are among the options that should become part of the political conversation. China has made giant investments in gaming companies, and has many eager gamers. Apple depends on China for much of its hardware production and to juice its iPhone sales. Western companies, and governments, have deeply integrated themselves with an authoritarian regime without thinking through the consequences, and when push comes to shove, many will choose money over their nice mission statements. You might be tempted to think that China has a Streisand effect problem, in which trying to censor an event creates even more publicity. But that assumes the Chinese government doesn't understand the Streisand effect, and that can't be right, because if one government understands attention dynamics online, it's China's. Much of what ails our modern life is exactly because we reduce the value of a human being to a number, say salary or consumer power. If anything, social media is a counterweight to the ongoing devaluation of human lives. Social media is enhancing human connectivity as people can converse in ways that were once not possible. When I type Fukushima radiation into Google, I get a mishmash of confusing, unhelpful, outdated or sensationalist articles from a random mix of sources, none looking very trustworthy or comforting. Behavioral research increasingly confirms what one might suspect: when confronted with a long-term catastrophic problem which requires short-term unpleasant consequences, many people will try to avoid making a decision altogether even if it makes the problem worse over the long run. We have large-scale nuclear power but are avoiding steps to evaluate it, update it, or make it safer. We have an energy crisis but we continue to consume as if there will be a magical solution. Entertainment can only go so far if a regime is unable to provide the basic foundations of legitimacy, which almost always includes the necessities for life and often extends to freedom and personal autonomy. Political activism is not failing because people are too busy watching cat videos online, but because of a fundamental collapse of citizen leverage on institutions of power like governments and corporations. If surveillance, censorship and propaganda are the three pillars of authoritarianism, information, organization and leverage are the counterpillars of citizen power, and the internet provides the best and most appropriate infrastructure for strengthening all three. Frankly, I find even the most mindless lolcat sites on the internet to be an improvement over canned laughter-filled sitcoms. Ability to disseminate one's ideas on the internet is now a sine qua non of inclusion in the global public sphere. However, the internet is not a true public sphere, it is a public sphere erected on private property, what I have dubbed a quasi-public sphere, where the property owners can sideline and constrain dissent. A fair fight between non-equals is not fair, and being blind to power is an implicit endorsement of the powerful. It seems to me that states, and corporations, have become increasingly secretive and opaque, while people are increasingly exposed. Remember, the internet did not create freedom of speech. In theory, we always had freedom of speech, it's just that it often went along with the freedom to be ignored. People had no access to the infrastructure to be heard. The first time I was tear-gassed, in Istanbul, Turkey, I thought I was going to die. Overwhelming pain flooded my eyes, nose, throat, and lungs. I couldn't breathe. If you're tear-gassed repeatedly, as I have been as an academic researching protest movements, you learn how to hold your breath and close your eyes. For many people, tear gas is their first interaction with state violence. It's the first time they've been treated like an insect, usually by police geared up like RoboCops. That warlike stance is a strong escalatory agent in a protest. After decades of research, I've personally concluded that perhaps the single most effective police action for crowd control would be for the police to show up dressed like humans, not Terminators. But crowd control is often not the point of state violence. In 2016, there was no sign that conservative pages did badly on Facebook. To the contrary, they were the pages that got the most engagement on Facebook. Silicon Valley engineers and employees may well be overwhelmingly liberal, but Facebook is run by the algorithms they program, which optimize for the way the site makes money, rather than sifting through posts one by one. As long as Facebook and other social media platforms make money by increasing engagement without much regard to the content they algorithmically amplify, it doesn't matter whether every last employee is an avowed liberal. There is no doubt that social media fury can go wrong. Throngs on social media violate fundamental notions of fairness and due process. People may be targeted because of a misunderstanding or an out-of-context video. The punishment online mobs can mete out is often disproportionate. Sometimes the social media mob isn't just justified or understandable, but necessary because little else is available to protect the real victims. Many of my favorite restaurants in Hong Kong seat diners elbow to elbow, knee to knee. Unsurprisingly, Hong Kong has had a long history of epidemics. The 1968 flu pandemic that killed 1 million people around the world started in Hong Kong, and killed at least many thousands of the city's residents, and became known as the Hong Kong flu. Hong Kong also lost the most people outside of mainland China to the 2003 SARS epidemic. Thanks partly to their long history of fighting epidemics, Hong Kong also has some of the world's most prominent experts in infectious diseases. Trump's ploy to defund the WHO is a transparent effort to distract from his administration's failure to prepare for the COVID-19 pandemic. Fixing the WHO is crucial, because we desperately need well-functioning global health institutions. In 2003, the world didn't learn about SARS until after it had escaped China and become impossible to deny. China is not a nation known for cooperating with international agencies when it doesn't want to. Exercise, the outdoors, and sunshine are essential, not just as luxuries but as ways to sustain population health and resilience. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.